Question for the men: what's the worst part of having a penis? I spend all my adolescence telling it to sit the fuck down, not here. Then finally, I reach an age where I'm like, alright, your time to shine, bro. And this petty motherfucker has the audacity to not do the very thing he'd been annoying me by doing at random times for so many years. Honestly rude. One Halloween I dressed up like a Ghostbuster. I got into the jumpsuit and everything was tight in that area. But no big deal, and I didn't think much of it. A few hours go by and I start to feel really sick. Just nauseous and overall crappy. I get home and take off the outfit, and within 15 seconds felt better. Turns out that having tightness down there for extended periods of time can cause you to feel horrible. I was going to say, lack of control. It often just wants to do its own thing regardless of stimulus, which can be painful if not in the right position. Also, the stigmatization that goes with it. For women, emphasizing most of their private parts falls between pretty to sexy, and generally only falls into the trashy category if nip is shown. For guys, even the hint of a bulge, and you are considered a pervert regardless of the fact that you have almost no control over it. I have a personal hypothesis that is not at all backed up by any scientific fact, but a long time ago when I worked close to a colleague I was dating, we shared the same table. What I came to notice is that the events of random boners would happen more often when she was close to, or during her periods. And I judge you not. As a way of confirming it, she came up with the idea of her not telling me, and whenever I felt that a random boner was just too random during work hours, I could turn to her and ask if it was that time of the month. And when wrong, it usually was a day prior wrong. And yeah, I could have just kept track of a calendar, but didn't bother mainly cause hers wasn't too regular for that matter. Anyways, just decided to drop this one here lol. Still have no idea if there could be any sort of primal instinct related to it. I've always had this problem in school. Sometimes thinking about things totally unrelated to, sometimes recalling my memories, and having a low attention span, especially if not interested in the topic. My mind wanders and frequently I catch myself in these situations. When I was a teenager, I used to flex my thighs, believing that blood in my penis would be redirected to leg muscles. During high school, this saved from many embarrassing situations. Growing older, I realized that holding my breath for as long as I could usually did the trick. For those that like to be chalked or are easily conditioned, I wonder this method would otherwise harden their boners, but I digress. Until today, holding my breath is the method I resort to. But there was an occasion in which I was with my girlfriend, in a family reunion, and her hand rested near that area, if you know what I mean. Of course, I started thinking dirty things and instantaneously began to hold my breath, and my girlfriend, intrigued, asked me out loud, "Why are you holding your breath? Are you feeling okay?" My cheeks immediately turned red. I mumbled some nonsense, but I felt so embarrassed with everyone staring at me that my boner went away. After that, I told her the real reason, and since then, when she notices me doing this, we start laughing together. That's a good point. I mean, at least you guys don't get surprised by periods. Imagine if it was normal and healthy for guys to bleed out of their dicks. I take a trouser snake with a mind of its own any day over that. And when you're on it, you are exhausted, and it can mess with things like serotonin and dopamine. I have ADHD while being female, and it's a nightmare. Can't even have a kid if I wanted. BC Prego ladies are not allowed to take their ADHD meds. And it makes you so tired, but you can't skip your hygiene or the blood itself can create bacteria and give you a UTI. Thank the universe every day that you don't have a womb lol. Not worth it despite the multiple orgasm thing. Not really an issue. Doesn't feel like anything much either. A slight discomfort by being pushed down by your pants, especially if it goes on for a while, but else I at least don't care. If anyone is so interested in my crotch to stare down and notice it, it might just make them happy to see. I don't know. Think of when you wake up with a stiff neck after sleeping wrong. That's the amount of Yule urge or need we get from random boners. The discomfort is less than the stiff neck though. Can't really explain the feeling itself. Boners are a completely separate function from arousal. One can be activated without the other. As men get older, the ratio of instances where they don't activate at the same time increases. It really is annoying when it just refuses to go down even when you don't feel horny at all, and it can be like that for 1 hour. But we men still have it way easier than women at least. Sometimes it can be several times a day, every day, so that's no fun, but usually it disappears instantly as long as you start to truly focus on something else. But if you are driving, then at least for me, it may never disappear until I arrive. Sometimes they literally will just not go away unless you jerk off or have. It's extremely annoying, especially with morning wood when you just want to roll over and go back to sleep. But there's this solid log in the way that won't let you lay comfortably. One method I've found that works is to finger flick the tip, but then you have to deal with the fact of dick tapping yourself, which is unpleasant. It is the most sensitive part. Imagine flicking your clit every time you got wet for no reason. It's exactly like your nipples actually. Your nipples getting hard doesn't have to have anything to do with your arousal, right? Wrong temperature, a breeze hitting them just the right way, bam, hard nipples. Well, guess what? A penis is the exact same type of tissue, and it reacts the same way, for the same reasons, or no reason at all. Even adrenaline or heart rate changes can cause it. Nervous about something? Erection. Like that helps things. We even call it the fear boner. Imagine how many times a day that happens to you in public, only we have to worry about jail every time it happens. It doesn't feel like an itch. One can control it, if he has a strong mindset. I'm on no FAP right now, so now, it's even hard for me, try to avoid it. It's fucking insane. Oh, FAP has a lot of benefits. I'm feeling it, that energy, but it makes us quite aggressive. Whenever I feel the temptations, push-ups to failure, cycling, that energy carries over directly to my workout. I'm trying to use that extra source of energy to do something productive. I'm not gonna do it forever, just not to masturbate. It will for me to approach beautiful girls, to which is worth it better than playing with myself for those 5 seconds of pleasure. I'm just 17 right now. Lady boners. Clitoral erection. Does it automatically gets wet or tightens? In the presence of a hot guy, can women get that extra energy through no FAP? Can you? Are you gonna try? Are you weak or strong enough to control your feelings? Master your mind. Okay, I just want to know that, have you tried it? Or is it as much beneficial for women as it is for men? I was married, not anymore, to a man who had a huge wang, and was always having to move it around to make trousers more comfortable. Shortly after we split up, I got a panicked phone call. He was in jail and needed to be bailed out. He'd been at a laundromat reading a book, sitting in a chair, in tight trousers. He reached down and tried to subtly rearrange the sausage, when a woman across the room was bending down to pick up a coin she dropped. She glanced over and thought he was masturbating himself at her, and called the Fing cops. I bailed him out. The case was dropped for being ridiculous, but still, watch yourselves out there, fellas. I hate this, especially when you're trying to go to bed. Also, might I add, sleeping on your stomach. Laying on my stomach is like the only comfortable way I can fall asleep. Then I get morning wood, and that straight up does not feel good laying on your stomach. Oh, gotta sleep on my side, which is uncomfortable for my balls if it's warm in my room, and I straight up cannot sleep on my back, just isn't comfortable to me at all. I low-key wonder whether this sounds relatable to anyone else, or if it's just TMI plus me sounding nutty, but it's something that bothers me as a man, so might as well share. I sit down now. It's the only foolproof way to pee with the morning wood while still half awake. Many people made the same comment, but I have no idea how that is possible with morning wood. My penis looks up and is outside the toilet bowl if I do this. It's just impossible to push it down without hurting me or break it or something like that. No chance. I have to stand in front of it and bend my body forward, push it down as best I can, and only then does it work. It is anything but pleasant. The chances are quite high that something goes wrong. Sitting is really impossible for me, and the morning wood will stay hard until I have peed. At least I have almost never morning wood. You get an award because I'm currently laying in bed next to my sleeping boyfriend, and trying so hard not to laugh out loud and wake him. I can't imagine having to do all that just to be comfortable. Oh wait, trying to sleep with crazy big boobs, long hair, or both. Wanna sleep on your stomach? Tough. Try it, and your back will hate you in the morning. Wanna sleep on your back? Better sleep with multiple pillows or you'll suffocate yourself. Tossing and turning? Prepare for smacking yourself in the face with a boob, or getting your hair wrapped around an arm, in an armpit, or under an elbow. Comfort is difficult. And someone is always helpful with the recommendation to just sit down. Sure, just like that, You either sit down first, and now, you can't push it down to point in, because it's getting caught on the seat edge. Or you navigate it in first, and then try to relax and lean back, only to have the head touch the icy cold inner surface of the toilet. Now, you can't even enjoy the piss because, even though it's your own toilet, you're absolutely certain you've just caught something they're going to have to name after you. I often ask my boyfriend penis questions like, so why don't you just sit down to pee and poop in the morning? Why do you stand up to pee, smoke a cigarette, play a video game for a minute, and then poop? And yeah, cigs stimulate the morning poop, but why not just do all in one? Anyway, he explains it to me, and then we get into the peeing with morning boners. And he said sometimes it sprays out in all directions, because the pee hole is being pressurized, and he sort of needs to pop the pee hole open a bit to make one hole instead of a split hole. I love these conversations with my boyfriend, and I've learned so much. Being able to have open penis question conversations is one of the peak relationship benefits. My now wife, who at a younger age was pretty sheltered, didn't know that I wasn't circumcised. We had been having at that time for maybe 6 months. We were both 18. Circumcision came up in a conversation with 2 of her friends. Both of them were talking about how weird it would be to perform oral on someone who wasn't circumcised. My wife agreed. I think some more comments were made before I was like, yo, turtlenecker here. They all froze. I was kinda embarrassed and amused at the same time. I definitely felt self-conscious. That was when my wife learned that the foreskin can be pulled back. Yeah, it is handy, and it isn't something to be ashamed of. I know that rationally, but the bashing on small penises and over-fetishization of large penises do have a subconscious influence, and I still feel a bit ashamed when he's not stretching out. And I perfectly know that I have average equipment, and biology made us so that most average women are compatible with average-sized equipment. And by experience, I know I'm okay. But still, it's subconscious. I'm also a grower and have struggled with the same insecurity for many years. I like to think of the Greeks and Romans, who thought big penises were barbaric, which is why all the naked statues from that period are depicted as smaller when flaccid. As studies have shown, most guys are roughly the same size when erect, and showers had to have existed back then. So to them, growers were more aesthetically pleasing, and they chose them specifically as models for their paintings and sculptures depicting heroes and gods. It's also more ergonomic, compactly stowing itself away when not in use, so we suffer less flopping around when doing non-UL activities. Educated women know about shrinkage. That's not to say your girlfriend or girl of that time was stupid, but once you educated her, she was able to spread the knowledge, which is a good thing hopefully. The only way I've ever known is due to similar circumstances. Just having guy friends more than women and hearing guy talk growing up helped me understand male anatomy a bit, and hope I never made or will make a male feel like less than because of natural reflexes, occurrences. Hate to be the jerk that tries to top you, but this story has to be told. My brother was windsurfing under the Golden Gate Bridge, and when he finished and was peeling off his wetsuit, he looked down and was shocked to see his balls were completely gone, nowhere to be found. It turned out that between the extremely cold water and the pressure of the wetsuit, his grapes went to hide in the little hole in the pelvis that is apparently there for that reason. They reappeared a little while later. Apparently sumo wrestlers push their nads up into this recess for safety when getting into those slingshot diapers. Tease not only the cold temperature. I had a medical procedure where they inserted a camera down the urethra. Well, I didn't want that procedure, and I didn't like the idea of people inserting a camera inside my penis. When I laid on the table to get the procedure, my penis did shrunk so small, even I was surprised it could disappear that much, far worse than the cold water. I am pretty sure the medical staff still believe I have a micro penis. We truly have no control over our erections. I've had it fail me when with an incredibly attractive partner, and having someone blame themselves, like, they internalize you must not be attracted to them or something, is so disappointing. Also, all the side things, like how you have to intentionally avoid feeling good during because you might orgasm too quickly, instead of just being able to enjoy it. It's frustrating. I had a crush on my neighbor my entire childhood. She was beautiful but into older guys as we grew up. She moved, but we kept in touch via social media. One night, I was clubbing and ran into her. She was rolling on ecstasy and was overly excited to see me. We start hanging out, my friends and hers, and she's like, "Open your mouth." She puts a molly on my tongue and off we went. We connected, caught up, the usual on it, and she wanted to go home with me. Inner child was overwhelmed with excitement, and it wasn't the molly. We go home. The 17 years of build up, and my dick didn't arrive to the moment. It was the most anticlimactic situation ever been in, and home she went. I still think about that and how fickle it can be. Oh God, that was awful to read. I had a loosely similar situation, although not so massively erotic. Platonically reconnected with a girl I dated in my early teens, whose current roommate was a friend of hers from back then that I had also spent a lot of time with by proxy. After a lot of drinking, the get-together was over and everyone left, except for me, who had arranged to sleep on their couch. After my ex went to bed, the friend comes out dressed in some kind of white pajama outfit, gave me a look, and I knew it was on. After a minute or two we were in her room. Foreplay ensued. When the moment was right, I looked down to see my floppy dick just dangling there, being useless. I vaguely recall rolling off the bed, and the next memory was waking up on the floor at the foot of her bed. It was morning already, she was asleep, grabbed my clothes and bailed. When you're like, I'll stand up to pee in the toilet, and the pee stream decides to fork into two unconceivable directions, and the only way to get either in the toilet is for one to shoot across the room and get on the floor or run down your leg. When you're like, I'll sit down to pee, and somehow, your dick is at some weird angle and manages to shoot the pee right between the bowl and the seat, and you end up pissing on the floor and your own pants. And for me, when I'm under anesthesia and get an erection. I had surgery on my butthole. Had they flipped me over and checked it by probing around, at least it would have been somewhat explainable, but they didn't. I was still quite drowsy, having just woke up, and I remember thinking, I'm sorry, I have a massive erection, but for the life of me, I don't know if I said out loud or just thought it. I hope I just thought it, and choose to believe I only thought it and had the self-control to only think it. However, I've seen how talkative people who just woke up from anesthesia can be, and I didn't have any friends or family with me at the time to confirm one way or snother. I wonder if they put a bit of Viagra in the anesthesia to stop you from pissing yourself during surgery while you're out. Oh man, I bursted in laughter reading this. I remembered that day I was in the office, went to the urinal because the stalls were all taken, prepared my aim, and the stream shot 45 out of my aiming. I cut the stream, repositioned, and tried again just to find the stream decided to change its angle again. Both times the stream hit the edge, and every time I cut the stream it dribbled out of the dang thing. I got as closed as I could from it and released the stream just to find the strength was a little too much, and now it splashed back. I don't have between bowl and seat problem. Touching the bowl, however. Just bought a new house, and all the toilets are regular depth. I don't know who decided what depth that would be, but evidently I've been sitting on elongated all my life, and now my PP touches every time I sit. Despite me not considering myself a person in need of a larger toilet, I'm taking one of the toilets out already just to refinish the wood floors, planning on just replacing all of them with larger models. Stupid cheap builders. Maybe not the worst, but one I haven't seen yet in this theater. Sometimes when biking, it falls asleep. Kinda like when you stay in the same position for too long. You get that tingly feeling. Really unpleasant when it happens in a body part that's so sensible. It goes away after a few minutes, but it has definitely gotten me some weird looks. I have no idea how much experience you have cycling, but this shouldn't happen and indicates a problem with how your bike fits. Numbness can become a chronic problem, so I'd recommend not ignoring it. If you don't already have one, I'd look at getting a saddle with the center cut out. They're intended to relieve pressure on the soft tissue. Adjusting the saddle height is also a common issue. Literally the same with height. Have a friend who's 6'4", but I'm happy he knows how to tie his shoes with his 26 years of age. Another friend who's 5'3", not Asian just unlucky German, is studying psychology in Amsterdam with 20 years already because he skipped classes in high school. And yet, people walk to the 6'4" friend asking him about psychology, as if we didn't have a fucking genius standing next to us. They just assumed he was the one studying psychology. This is just one example of hundreds of times it happened in different scenarios. Size shaming. It's socially acceptable to shame men for their size, even though women are different sizes too. The difference is that a wide woman is a size queen, and a small man looking for a tighter woman is just pathetic. Even though both women and men have much better with a similar fit, there definitely is a myth that vaginas are all basically the same size, and it's only men's genitals which differ wildly in shape and scale. I'd never say this to anyone in Ireland because it would be crushing, but honestly, some vaginas are just astonishingly loose. And I say that as someone with large and girthy penis. It's no one's fault. We're all made different, but big or small, tight or loose, you're going to struggle to have satisfying with someone you're not physically compatible with. I had developed BXO, autoimmune disease of the foreskin, where it would swell up till you could no longer pee, in my early 30s. It's very rare, but I'm the one who drew up the lucky number. Treatment: adult circumcision. Men get, on average, 5 erections per night. I never knew this fact until each one woke me up screaming my head off in pain. That's on top of the regular pain felt all throughout the day, because someone chopped off a bit of my willy and then reattached bits together. If I would get an erection, I had to do anything in my power to stop it, or the pain would stop it for me eventually. It took a month to fully heal. For the first week, I could barely walk, which is ironic because I drove myself home after the procedure. Anesthetics are amazing. Anyway, this whole experience made me see child circumcision for what it is: infant genitalia mutilation. Unless you're doing it for pure medical reasons, it's mutilation. Oh, but it's more hygienic. It's not. Learn to wash yourself and stop mutilating babies. Penises can be horrible things. Take care of yours. These are all bad answers. You are forgetting about the true devil of owning a penis. Occasionally after a wonk or a piss, you get that very uncomfortable feeling that you absolutely cannot get out the last drop. No matter how hard you try, you can end up sitting on the loo for a disastrous long time, only pissing a few tiny drops or bursts of pee as you try to force out that very last bit. It feels like it's just laughing at you from the inside of your dickhead. Incredibly time-consuming, very uncomfortable, and definitely one of the worst parts about having a cock. That women think it being erect equals arousal and consent. It's an involuntary response. Also, that women somehow don't think groping it in public when it isn't wanted or consented to isn't okay. Ladies, stop going up to random guys, dropping them, and being upset if they reject you. If you get to call that UL assault, so do we. If you can say no to anyone for any reason, so do we. I've lost count of the number of times I've had drinks poured on me, or I've been slapped because some drunk chick came onto me hard, usually involving grabbing my dick, and said I wasn't interested. My wality and sanity are normally called into question. I'm told I'm less of a man, and a drink normally gets tossed in my face or thrown at me. So, yeah, that sucks. Yes, it's not as bad as the ladies can have it. Rape and murder are way worse. But this isn't a competition for who has it worse. Both suck and shouldn't be discounted or tolerated. So ladies, stop this, call it out when you see it, and stop defending other women who think it's okay.